Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode number 89. It is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, the 28th of October, closing in on the end of the month. The Dodgers are the World Series champions. That was quite the game. Did not watch the game, but what a series. Only in 2020, I guess. Kevin Cash pulls Blake Snell. Justin Turner is pulled with a positive COVID test. He comes out and celebrates. What a wild finish. I did not receive any Cubs mail, but I was able to catch up and count the mail from a couple days ago. Mertztown, PA. I did some digging trying to find who sent that, but I have not been able to find that. So if Mertztown, PA is listening, they sent 313 Cubs cards and some real nice cards included. I always get Topps Tier 1 and Tribute, and I think this is Triple Threads. Ryan Sandberg, numbered to 75. Sandberg to 75, Triple Threads. That's from 2019. How about this from Studio, Ernie Banks, and this is numbered to 1,000, numbered 832 out of 1,000. We've got a Tier 1, Andre Dawson, numbered to 799. Nice card, very thick. This was a card that was kind of on my radar that I wanted to pick up, but never pulled the trigger, but it came in a trade. Off Banks rookie medallion from 2020 Topps. I thought those were really cool this year. A image variation of Ryan Sandberg. Love this photo. It shows Don Zimmer at third base. So this is probably from 80. I wonder if this is from the Sandberg game. I'll have to do some digging. It was before Zimmer was manager. So I'm mid 80s. Ben Zobrist, jersey relic with that little blue pinstripe. Love the stand. Buyback of Ken Holtzman, 67 Topps. I don't remember if I have any of Mark Grace's rookie in this variation. 88 Fleer Mini Mark Grace rookie. And then Topps Moments and Milestones, Greg Maddux, 4 of them. They're all numbered to 150. Very cool. And finally, a Topps Gold, Javi Baez. Very nice. So Mertztown, PA, thanks for some really cool cards. Also, a PWE came, and with my 6 Ginter X that I showed off yesterday, the Cubs count is at 505,270. 505,270 Cubs cards in the collection. Something that I've been lacking lately has been topics. So I was thinking of some topics on my drive to the post office yesterday. I thought of a couple. So the topic today is why working for the Cubs was never my dream job. Actually, it was for a short period of time, but very early on in my career, did I change that goal. Working for the Cubs no longer the dream job that I once wanted, and I will tell you why in this episode, and it has to do with broadcasting, which will be a topic tomorrow. I want to share some horror stories of traveling for a mid-major, a low mid-major at that. It's far from glamorous. So I'll share some stories from the road during my tenure working in college basketball. So another thing that I've been lacking on is the blogging, and I even mentioned it in a previous episode that I was going to get back to blogging and try to aim for 1 a day. Well, I have not done that. And I have a Ginter X review. It's actually, the hard part's done. The most time-consuming part of blogging, the actual writing, is complete. I just have to take the photos and upload them and publish. So that will be, I promise, online today. So working for the Chicago Cubs, you would think that it would be my ultimate dream job. And it's not, for 2 reasons. The first reason is I couldn't be a fan. It's you can still be a fan and be employed by a sports club team, but it's not the same. Because if I was employed by the Chicago Cubs, I could not be the fanboy that I am. I couldn't be chasing down players for autographs at spring training. I would probably have some job title at Cubs convention where I couldn't just roam around and be a fan. A lot of you could still be a fan, but you can't be a crazy super fan if you're actually employed by the team, because some of that stuff goes away. The fun stuff goes away. So that's one part. And my friend Kyle, who is also going to come up in tomorrow's episode, he lives near Rochester, Minnesota, huge Vikings fan. And when we worked together, he said that we worked together in college athletics, and he said working for the Minnesota Vikings, he wouldn't want to do it because he couldn't be that fan that he is, like going to training camp when it was in Mankato. He couldn't do a lot of the fun stuff because he would be an employee, and he actually interned when he was in college for the Minnesota Vikings, and said that that would never be his job, and he wouldn't pursue a job with the Vikings because he is such a fan. And so that resonated with me. So that's part of it. You can be a fan and employed, but you can't be the super fan, the autograph collector, getting memorabilia, that fun stuff. That chase is a lot of the reason why I, become a fan of players. If they take the time to talk, or, you get an autograph, some of those conversations, you can really become a fan. And obviously you have that close connection if you're employed by the team, but it's just not the same. But this is going to tie into broadcasting. The main reason, and early in my adulthood, actually still a teenager, I guess. I was a teenager, dream job. I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, and I wanted to do play-by-play in the minor leagues, in minor league baseball, and work my way up to the ultimate goal, and someday take over for Pat Hughes on the Cubs radio broadcast team, play-by-play. But early on, I realized that's not a dream job. I don't want to do that because, and here's why. Early in my radio career, probably year 2, I worked in small market radio. So my second full-time job was in Macomb, Illinois, and we had a sister station. Part of our ownership group was in a much smaller town, maybe 3,000, 5,000 population, Rushville, Illinois. Probably most of you have never heard of it. So in our Rushville, Illinois radio station, very small station, they broadcasted a lot of, the local sports. They were hyper local. They would do junior high basketball games on the radio, and the graduation ceremonies were broadcast live. And they did spring softball and baseball. So, early on when I, worked at the Macomb station, my boss knew my love for the Cubs and baseball, and that, that's kind of the trajectory I wanted to go in my career, was that play-by-play baseball path. And it was the Rushville Rockets versus the Brown County Hornets. And that was the first school baseball game that I broadcasted. It was probably in 2003 or 2004. Is the first step in my career towards working my way to being a baseball broadcaster. I'm in Rushville High School, Rockets and Hornets. And we get through the first inning, and I absolutely hated it. The baseball was bad. Sorry, Hornets and Rockets. It was terrible. There were errors. If you've watched high school baseball, especially bad high school baseball, it's awful to watch. It was slow. I was bored. I realized how much prep goes into a baseball broadcast. I learned that the hard way. You have to have a lot of material to get yourself through a baseball broadcast, especially if it's bad baseball, because it's going to be longer. There's going to be more errors. The innings last longer. We get through one inning, and that's when I realized working as a Chicago Cubs baseball broadcaster was not going to be for me, because I did not want to spend years and years watching bad baseball. I did not want to go through the bad baseball at the high school level and work my way up. I did not want to go through that. So game one, probably one inning in, maybe two innings, I learned that being a Chicago Cubs baseball broadcaster was not for me. I'll listen to Pat and Ron on the radio. It was Pat and Ron Santo at that time. Pat and Ron Coomer now. So that was my rude awakening into the world of baseball broadcasting. And the funny thing is, I hated softball. And a couple of years later, the station that I worked for in Macomb, we started carrying, like a game of the week. We did a baseball game, then we did a softball game, and we tried to mix it up with some of the area schools to equalize coverage. And we did a couple softball games, and I didn't understand the game. I tried to learn, tried to get into it, couldn't get into it. Probably the fourth or fifth softball game that I had broadcasted, it was probably the worst. My first couple games, I was probably so just tunnel vision focused that I did okay. But by game 5, I think I just kind of, I had the, just wasn't into it. Terrible broadcast. Okay. The next morning, I get a phone call from the Illinois High School Association, and the guy in charge of media, he's still there. We're the same age, similar paths, worked well together. He called me. He's like, hey, we have an opening for one of the weekends for play-by-play for the state finals. Would you be interested? And I said, absolutely. And this is coming off my worst broadcast probably ever. And here now I'm throwing myself on the big stage of doing it on TV webcast for the state finals, the biggest games of the year in high school softball. And man, was I nervous. And I grew to love softball, amateur softball. And I still broadcast the state finals. That was back in, I think, 2000. At that time, it was probably 2008. And I've been broadcasting the state finals since 2000. Must have been 2008 or 2009 was that summer. And I really enjoy doing it. And it's funny how we have these fans in our head. I'm going to be a baseball broadcaster, work my way up to the Chicago Cubs. You get to the first step and you realize this isn't the journey I want to take. And then you just kind of meander, and you have something that I hate this sport. I don't want to do it. And then you get a couple steps in, you fight through a couple steps, and this isn't too bad. And then you get that opportunity, and you just grow from it. And it's funny how that trajectory changed from, being adamant about working my way up to Major League Baseball broadcaster. But I learned early on that's not the course I wanted to take. But the same season, another sport, didn't like it at first, and eventually grew to like it. Now, did I grow into liking baseball? No. I hate broadcasting baseball. Still do. I don't do it anymore. I'm, have a different career. But this is early on, my first baseball broadcast, 2003. And I didn't really do it again because our station didn't start doing these spring games until I think '08. So I didn't really do much between 2003 and 2008. 2008, we did the game of the week, baseball and softball. Didn't like doing any of them, especially early in the spring, because early spring in Illinois is very cold and you're broadcasting outside and the wind's blowing into the microphone. You're usually sitting in bleachers because there's no broadcast booths at high school baseball fields. Stuff's blowing everywhere. So I never did grow into liking high school baseball. I did some college baseball and college softball work. Did not like the college baseball. Did like it a little better because the actual play on the field was better. Obviously, Division I baseball is going to be much better than small school, high school baseball. But I was able to watch some pretty good baseball at the high school level. Was able to catch some guys that were drafted into the major leagues. I don't think any of them made it to the bigs. One guy was a 5th round pick for the Royals, but he, I think, only made it to Double-A, and then he had some injuries and had to retire. But was able to watch some pretty good baseball, and obviously some really good softball at the championship level. So that's my story of why the Cubs was never my dream job. So tomorrow I want to take it with slant as well. My day job's been pretty rough, so it's fun to reminisce about the funner times in my day jobs. So tomorrow I'll share some not so fun stories on the road, because it's not glamorous when you're traveling in the mid majors. College, the Big Tens of the world, the SECs, they travel well. But when you're in the low majors of Division I college basketball, the travel can be pretty brutal. So I've got a couple stories: Savannah, Georgia, Hammond, Louisiana, Logan, Utah, Corvallis, Oregon, all parts of tomorrow's story. So that will be coming up on tomorrow's episode. Cubs count, over 300 Cubs came in the mail Monday. 0 yesterday, so the count is 505,270. 1millioncubs.com. I'll get the Allen and Ginter X review posted later today. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great Wednesday.